You feel the weight of it in your palm, a heavy, smooth, slightly warm oval. But when you strike it against the edge of the bowl, there is no satisfying, sharp snap. Instead, you hear a dull, leathery thud. You press harder, and the surface doesn't shatter into porcelain shards, it tears. A thick, translucent membrane stretches like wet parchment under your thumb, resisting your efforts to reach the center. As the opening finally gives way, a smell hits you, not the neutral, clean scent of a grocery store carton, but something heavy, musky, and undeniably ancient. This is a crocodile egg. It's dense, packed with more fat than any bird egg you've ever touched, and as you pour it into the pan, the yolk remains a defiant, brilliant orange that refuses to break. You're about to take a bite of something humans have eaten for 100,000 years, yet the very idea of it probably makes your stomach turn. You've been conditioned to believe that the white, fragile sphere of the chicken is the only real egg in existence. But in a world where millions of species lay eggs, why has your entire life been defined by just one? You think it's a matter of taste. It's actually a biological cage. That seems like a reasonable conclusion. If chicken eggs were just the best-tasting option, we would have naturally gravitated toward them through centuries of culinary trial and error. But that is a complete fabrication of history. For the vast majority of our existence as a species, the chicken egg was a rare, seasonal delicacy, not a staple. If you had asked a Roman aristocrat or a medieval peasant what the best egg was, they wouldn't have pointed to a scrawny jungle fowl. They would have pointed to the peacock, the swan, or the humble goose. Peacocks were the ultimate status symbol of the Roman dinner table, and their eggs were prized for a richness that makes a modern grade a large chicken egg taste like watered-down cardboard. Even as recently as the Victorian era, plover eggs were the height of luxury in London, sold for exorbitant prices because of their delicate, creamy texture. We didn't choose the chicken because it was the most delicious. We chose it because it was the most broken bird we could find. The myth that we eat chicken eggs because of their superior flavor profile is the first thing we have to dismantle if we want to understand the reality of our restricted diet. And that reality begins with a single, devastating question. Why didn't the fat in a duck egg kill your ancestors? It's easy to assume that we avoided other eggs because they were nutritionally inferior or even dangerous. But the opposite is true. If you look at the nutritional breakdown, the chicken egg is actually the light version of the avian world. A duck egg, for example, contains significantly higher concentrations of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin B12, and vitamin D. It has a larger yolk-to-white ratio, meaning you get more of the nutrient-dense lipids that our hunter-gatherer ancestors would have killed for. In a world of caloric scarcity, the duck egg is the objective winner. Yet, walk into any supermarket today, and the duck eggs are relegated to a tiny, expensive corner, if they're there at all. This wasn't a choice made by our bodies. It was a choice made by the brutal logic of the assembly line. To understand why, we have to look at the red jungle fowl, the wild ancestor of the modern chicken. In the wild, this bird lays perhaps 10 to 15 eggs a year. It lays a clutch, sits on them until they hatch, and then stops. It is a biological process governed by the seasons. But somewhere in the forests of Southeast Asia, about 8,000 years ago, humans found a genetic glitch. They found a bird that could be tricked into forgetting how to count. But this trickery wasn't unique to the chicken. Other birds, like the Japanese quail or the mallard duck, also have the capacity for high-volume laying. So why did the chicken win the global monopoly? The answer lies in a specific genetic mutation involving the TSHR gene, the thyroid-stimulating hormone receptor. Research led by Gregor Larson at the University of Oxford has shown that domestic chickens possess a specific variant of this gene that essentially deactivates their seasonal reproductive switch. While a goose or a turkey waits for the perfect day length and temperature to begin laying, the modern chicken has been biologically lobotomized. It doesn't know what month it is. It only knows how to produce. A single white leghorn can produce over 300 eggs a year, a feat of biological endurance that would literally kill most other bird species. This isn't just efficiency, it's an evolutionary freak show. We didn't choose the chicken for its eggs. We chose it because we could turn it into a machine that never turns off. And once that machine started running, It created an economic gravity that pulled every other egg off our plates. You might think that even if we can't produce ostrich eggs at the same volume, we'd still eat them as a common alternative. After all, one ostrich egg is the equivalent of 24 chicken eggs. It's a literal feast in a single shell. But size, in the world of food logistics, is a curse. Imagine trying to cook breakfast with an ostrich egg. The shell is 2 millimeters thick, nearly as tough as a human fingernail. You don't crack it. You need a hammer and a chisel, or a power drill. Once you get inside, the cook time is a nightmare. To hard-boil an ostrich egg, you have to submerge it in boiling water for at least 90 minutes. In a modern world built on 60-second commutes and instant coffee, the ostrich egg is a logistical disaster. It is too big to fit in a standard carton, too thick to be processed by machines, and too time-consuming for a person with a job. We have traded the variety of the natural world for the convenience of the 3-minute soft boil. But even that convenience comes with a hidden biological cost that we are only now beginning to understand. That sounds like a simple trade-off of time for energy. But there's a chemical reason why the chicken egg became the gold standard of the culinary world, and it has nothing to do with how it tastes on its own. It's about what it does to other foods. This is the albumin paradox. Bird eggs are composed of two main parts, the yolk, the fat, and the white, the protein. The protein in a chicken egg white, specifically the ovalbumin, has a unique molecular structure that allows it to trap air with incredible stability. When you whip a chicken egg white, you are creating a microscopic lattice that can support the weight of sugar and flour. This is what gives us cakes, soufflés, and meringues. Most other animal eggs don't behave this way. Duck egg whites have a higher protein content but a different balance of lysozymes and ovimucoids, making them harder to whip into a stable foam. If you try to make a meringue with a turkey egg or a reptile egg, the results are often heavy, rubbery, or prone to collapsing. We have built our entire baking science around the specific chemistry of one bird. We don't eat other eggs because our recipes literally won't allow us to. We have become slaves to the chicken's specific protein ratios. It's easy to believe that we could just invent new recipes for these other eggs. But then we hit the wall of the gamey barrier. You've probably heard people describe non-chicken eggs as tasting gamey or strong. This isn't just a matter of opinion, it's a direct result of what the animal eats. Chickens are the ultimate dietary blank slates. Because we raise them in controlled environments and feed them a standardized diet of corn and soy, their eggs have a neutral, predictable flavor. A duck, however, is a forager. If a duck eats snails, fish, or aquatic weeds, those flavor compounds, specifically the trimethylamine, transfer directly into the yolk. This results in an egg that can taste muddy, fishy, or intensely sulfuric. To the modern palate, which has been sterilized by industrial food production, this is seen as a flaw. In reality, it is a map of the animal's life. By choosing the chicken, we chose an egg that tastes like nothing, so that it can be used for everything. We have traded the complex terroir of the natural world for a flavorless, industrial substrate. And this preference for the clean egg has made us incredibly vulnerable to a biological threat that is currently lurking in the shadows of our food system. You probably think the shell of your egg is a solid barrier, a fortress protecting the life inside. But if you look at an eggshell under a scanning electron microscope, you'll see that it's actually a sieve. It is covered in thousands of microscopic pores, up to 17,000 on a single chicken egg, designed to allow the developing embryo to breathe. This porosity is a double-edged sword. It allows oxygen in, but it also allows bacteria, like salmonella, to enter. This is why the United States and several other countries wash their eggs before they reach the store. This process removes a natural protective coating called the cuticle or bloom, which then requires the eggs to be refrigerated to prevent spoilage. Now, compare this to the eggs we don't eat. Many wild birds, especially those that nest in wet or dirty environments like ducks and geese, have evolved much thicker, waxier cuticles and shells with different pore structures to fend off the bacteria found in mud and water. You would think this makes them safer. But because our industrial cleaning systems are calibrated specifically for the thickness and porosity of a chicken egg, they would either crush a more fragile egg or fail to sanitize a thicker, waxier one. We are trapped in a technological loop. We can only eat the eggs that our machines are programmed to wash. But wait, what about the eggs that don't have hard shells at all? If we were really looking for a dietary revolution, we would be looking at the reptile kingdom. Snakes, turtles, and lizards lay eggs with leathery, semi-permeable shells. These eggs are fundamentally different from avian eggs. They are designed to absorb water from their environment as the embryo grows. This means the interior of a reptile egg is a high-pressure, nutrient-dense soup that is remarkably different in texture from a bird egg. When you boil a turtle egg, the white doesn't always solidify. It stays a milky, translucent gel while the yolk becomes creamy and thick. In many parts of the world, this is considered the ultimate delicacy. In the 1800s, turtle egg harvesting was a massive industry in the Caribbean and the Amazon. But there's a reason you don't see turtle omelets on the menu at your local diner. It's not because they aren't delicious, it's because reptiles are terrible at being exploited. A sea turtle takes decades to reach sexual maturity. Unlike the chicken, which can start producing eggs at 20 weeks old, a turtle might need 30 years before it lays its first clutch. We didn't stop eating reptile eggs because we didn't like them, we stopped because we were eating them into extinction. We are a species that consumes faster than nature can replenish, and the chicken is the only bird that can keep up with our greed. That sounds like a victory for the chicken, but it's actually a tragedy of domestication. Take the turkey, for example. In the early 20th century, there was a serious push to make turkey eggs a commercial staple. Turkeys are indigenous to North America, they're hardy, and their eggs are larger and richer than chicken eggs. But the turkey had one fatal flaw: it's too smart, or rather, too expensive. A turkey takes up more space, eats more expensive feed, and most importantly, it has a very strong broody instinct. If you take a turkey's egg, it gets stressed. It wants to sit on its nest. To get a turkey to lay eggs at a commercial scale, you have to fight its entire evolutionary psychology. This makes the per-unit cost of a turkey egg nearly 10 times higher than a chicken egg. We didn't choose the chicken egg because it was better for us. We chose it because the chicken was the only bird dumb enough to let us take its children every single day without going on a reproductive strike. We have built our civilization on the back of the most compliant bird in history, and in doing so, we have narrowed our biological window to a dangerous degree. But the real reason you don't eat other eggs is deeper than economics or chemistry. It's about the monoculture of the palate. There is a documented psychological phenomenon called the omnivore's paradox. As humans, we are wired to seek out new foods, but we are also deeply afraid of anything unfamiliar. This fear, called neophobia, is a survival mechanism designed to keep us from eating poisonous plants. But in the modern world, it has been co-opted by the food industry. Because we are raised in an environment where egg is a synonym for chicken egg, our brains have categorized every other type of egg as non-food. When you see a blue robin's egg or a speckled quail egg, your brain doesn't see a meal, it sees a decoration or a scientific specimen. We have effectively deleted thousands of potential food sources from our collective consciousness. A study by Dr. Paul Rozin, a leading expert on the psychology of disgust, suggests that our food preferences are shaped almost entirely by cultural exposure during a narrow window of childhood. If you weren't fed duck or emu eggs by the age of 10, your brain will likely treat them with the same suspicion it treats a plate of insects. We aren't eating chicken eggs by choice. We are eating them because we have lost the cultural vocabulary to eat anything else. This feels like the peak of human achievement, the total optimization of a protein source. But that optimization has brought us to the edge of a cliff. By putting all our eggs in one basket, quite literally, we have created a massive single point of failure. The global egg industry is almost entirely dependent on a few specific hybrid strains of chickens, like the Lohman Brown or the Highline W36. These birds are genetically almost identical. This means that if a single highly pathogenic strain of avian influenza, like H5N1, manages to bypass our biosecurity, it could wipe out the entire global supply in a matter of months. We saw a glimpse of this in 2022, when millions of birds had to be culled, causing egg prices to triple overnight. If we had a diversified egg economy, if we ate a mix of duck, goose, turkey, and quail eggs, a disease that hits one species wouldn't collapse the entire system. But we have traded that resilience for a cheaper price tag. We are living in a biological monoculture that is one mutation away from total collapse. And the most terrifying part? We've been here before. History is littered with the ghosts of eggs we used to love. In the 17th century, the great auk, a flightless, penguin-like bird of the North Atlantic, was hunted to extinction largely for its enormous, nutrient-rich eggs. Sailors would land on islands like Eldey and collect thousands of eggs at a time, treating them as a seemingly infinite resource. They weren't. The great auk laid only one egg a year. By the time we realized we were killing the species, it was already too late. The last two great auks were killed on June 3, 1844, while they were incubating their final egg. We have a track record of finding the perfect egg and eating the species into the grave. The only reason the chicken survived us is because we learned how to turn it into a biological factory before we could finish it off. We didn't save the chicken, we enslaved it to save ourselves from our own hunger. But the most disturbing part of this story isn't what we did to the birds, it's what we've done to ourselves. By narrowing our diet down to a single species, we have actually changed our own biology. There is emerging research into the human gut microbiome that suggests our diversity of gut bacteria is directly linked to the diversity of the proteins we consume. For most of human history, our ancestors ate a rotating gallery of seasonal eggs, reptile eggs in the spring, wild bird eggs in the summer, fish roe in the autumn. This constant shift in lipid profiles and protein structures kept our immune systems and our gut flora adaptable. Today, we eat the same chicken protein, day in and day out, for decades. We are the first generation of humans in history to have such a nutritionally stagnant relationship with the egg. We have traded our biological adaptability for a predictable, low-cost breakfast. You think you're standing in your kitchen making a choice when you reach for that carton of 12. But you're not. You are participating in a 10,000-year-old biological heist. You are eating the product of a genetic glitch, a broken TSHR gene, an industrial cleaning system, and a psychological conditioning that has blinded you to the vast majority of the natural world. If you were to crack open a turkey egg tomorrow, you'd find a yolk so creamy it makes a chicken egg feel like water. If you tried an emu egg, you'd be greeted by a vibrant, emerald green shell and a flavor so rich it borders on the surreal. But you won't. Not because they aren't there, and not because you wouldn't like them. You won't eat them because the system has decided it's easier to keep you in the cage with the chickens. The real paradox isn't why we don't eat other eggs. It's why we've convinced ourselves that we don't want to. We live on a planet overflowing with biological diversity, a world where every niche is filled with a different, specialized form of life, yet we have funneled our entire existence through the throat of a single, terrified bird. We call it progress. We call it efficiency. But in the quiet of the morning, when the sun hits that white shell on your counter, it looks a lot more like a surrender. We have conquered the egg, but in the process, we have lost the taste of the wild. We have traded the mystery of the leather shell and the musky yolk for the safety of the supermarket aisle. And that safety is the most dangerous thing about us. Think back to that feeling in your hand, the heavy, warm, leathery egg of the crocodile. That feeling is the truth of our history. It is the reminder that we were once part of a world that was bigger than a cage. We were once creatures that ate with the seasons, that understood the value of a single, rare, fatty prize found in the reeds of a riverbank. Now, we are creatures that measure our success in the price of a dozen. We have optimized the wonder out of our world, one breakfast at a time. And the most haunting part of it all? If you were offered that crocodile egg right now, you'd probably say no. Not because you're not hungry, but because you've forgotten how to be human. Why is it that the more we perfect our food, the less we seem to know about it? We've spent this time peeling back the layers of history, biology, and economics, only to find that the most common item in your fridge is actually an architectural marvel of human manipulation. It's a strange thought, isn't it? That your morning routine is a direct result of an ancient genetic mutation and a medieval economic collapse. It makes you wonder what else on your plate is only there because it was the easiest thing to exploit. If you found this dive into the secret history of your breakfast as fascinating as I did, there are 1,000 more rabbit holes like this one waiting to be explored. This channel is dedicated to uncovering the weird, uncomfortable, and brilliant truths that hide in plain sight. If you want to join us for the next one, you know what to do. It's a quiet way to support the search for more of these stories, and I'd love to have you along. But for now, I have to ask, if you were given the chance, truly given the chance, to try an egg that tasted like the history of the world, would you have the courage to crack the shell? Or has the chicken finally won? Take a look at that carton in your refrigerator tomorrow morning. Really look at it. You aren't looking at a food source, you're looking at a biological monopoly. Those 12 white or brown spheres are the final survivors of a war you didn't even know was being fought. Every other bird, every reptile, every fish that ever dared to lay an egg has been evicted from your life to make room for the most efficient, most compliant, and most unremarkable animal on the planet. You tell yourself that you like the taste, but the truth is much simpler. You like it because you were told to, and you were told to because it was cheap. Your breakfast isn't a choice. It's a corporate biological inheritance you're too afraid to break. You'll keep cracking those fragile, empty shells every single morning for the rest of your life, not because they are the best the world has to offer, but because you've forgotten that the world offers anything else at all. Your kitchen is a museum of a single species, and you're the curator of your own limitations. Sleep well, knowing that your palate is exactly as small as the industry needs it to be.